Hi guys, welcome to a short informative video about the issue of fees, and just hopefully this one might spark a little bit of debate about what something like fees would do should they come back in with the budget that's looming. One of the biggest things that I wanted to do was that when I was out and about talking to students and kind of getting student opinion, I found that there was a lack of information and a lack of knowledge with regard to something like fees and government and what is currently happening. So hopefully this video might rectify some of that. Budget 2012 is set up to make what they call a 3.6 billion adjustment. So essentially, you know, they don't want to pump that much money into something else, or they want to gain money back. And one of the biggest things that means for us as students is that grants and fees now are under threat. And at this very moment in time, there are probably people hashing out ideas with regard to ways and means that they could cut grants and you know, increase fees. And that's kind of the main reason why we've protested over the past couple of weeks. Now, grants at both postgraduate and undergraduate level are being looked at. Postgraduate in particular has been taken by students as probably one of the biggest ones that might be hit. And the way in which they can do that is by lowering the threshold of a grant. Say for example, the current grant system that's there is that if you earn less than €18,000, you are allowed the full grant of 6,000, and that is supposed to pay for your fees. On a side note to that, Bank of Ireland recently released you know, information that it costs €10,500 to, you know, get a student through college. So if you're being given 6,000, you're already €4,500 in deficit. So that's kind of a little bit dangerous. The main thing is that if they hit something like threshold, that 6,000 that was meant for you will probably end up going down to about 3,000. 90% of students do not get the full maintenance grant. Close to 10% do, and that's you know, that's just a show of how much the grants are used in Ireland. With regard to fees, I personally think, and this is my own opinion, I could be you know, subject to contrary on this, but full fees I don't think are an option for the government. I don't think that they can do it. A smart economist would know that an intelligent means of getting the economy back from a poor condition is by investing in education. And unfortunately, Ireland invests in both education and higher education far less than what the OECD recommends. So that is a little bit of a difficult thought. I don't think that they'd push at something like full fees, because it would lead to something like you know, immigration, and you'd have so many people on a dole queue, something that the Limerick protest showed a lot. I mean, the image alone of a lot of students on a dole queue and a lot of students leaving Ireland, I think it was very, very striking. I thought it was very, very good. But the intelligent thing that someone who wants to market increasing a fee would do would be the fear of full fees. If I wanted to charge you 6,000 and then I said to you, well, I'm only going to add 500 to what you're currently paying, I'm far more open to accepting the 500. So this is something that a smart marketing person would do. If something like this comes in, it has to be long lasting. Now last year they changed the idea of registration fee to a student contribution. No one changes the name of something unless they expect a bit of longevity from it. So I expect that something like the student contribution would be something that will be there for a long time, and it is very open to being added on to, you know, 500 this year, an extra 500 next year, and the year after, and the year after, until it gradually reaches something like fees. That's something that's far more progressive in letting fees in. It's easing you into something like fees. So that's something I'd again be worried about. The biggest thing that I want this video to do is to kind of promote the idea of debate and discussion with regard to fees and what they'll do to you as a student, but also on a far more kind of intellectual level, critiquing the country and its economy, and whether or not, you know, it's viable to do something like this, introduce fees, cut grants, and is there somewhere else within the economy that can be looked at with regard to generate the money that they want to make with regard to this adjustment of 3.6 billion. But the smartest thing for any government would be, you know, engagement, and that's one of the biggest things, is engagement with the student populace with regard to what it will do, the devastating effect something like this might have on their welfare. One of the things that we're thrown about, like full fees, I don't think are an option, but they're looking at something like a graduate tax. And a graduate tax for me is essentially, it's still fees, but it's, you know, when you get to a certain bracket of payment and stuff like that. But it's essentially, you've racked up a debt as a student which you'll pay when you're in a job. And that's not something that I would promote either. I think at the stage that you will be when you're graduating, you are getting a mortgage, you have a family and kids and that kind of thing, and I don't think that's been taken into account. That the life we have now, which many of us do, and a lot of postgrads will have a different life as well with regard to, you know, family and owning their own house and that kind of stuff, but we have a very different life once we graduate, and I don't think a graduate tax is something that would be entirely viable. Now, I'm open to contradiction on that, and that's what I'm hoping this will fuel some kind of debate. Something like a graduate tax, it kind of already exists. One of the quotes that I got, and I have it here from the USI website, was, over a lifetime, graduates of higher education pay an average of 70% more in income tax than non-graduates, simply because they have better, higher paying jobs than non-graduates. Now, over the past couple of weeks, I have tried to pick information from various different groups, and from, you know, the budget of last year and stuff like that, and that figure is already there. So a graduate tax is essentially already in place. But one of the biggest findings that I thought was difficult was that supporting an unemployed person for 1 year costs the state €5,200 per year in job seekers benefit for someone who is under 22 years of age. Now, therein lies the shift from education into the dole queue. You know, what is more important here? Is it, you know, training people, getting them an education that would benefit the economy, or are we just going to allow what is happening with dole queues of non-working economy that is not working towards, you know, making, I suppose, Ireland better and far more viable as a country. One of the biggest issues I have with the government, and I hope you'll share this feeling, is that government invests less in the two different types of education, normal education and higher education, than the OECD would recommend. And yet we still produce more graduates. We have the second highest tuition fees in the EU, yet we produce more graduates. Like, we're a very skilled group. We are a very, very, I imagine, a educated group that are in demand, definitely throughout Europe. And that shows our great worth to the economy that is here at the moment. But the main thing that I wanted this video to show is the facts to date. So I'm just going to tell you that in 1996, the free fees scheme came in with a registration fee of €190. Now, since then, over the past 15 years, that registration fee has risen 13 times. In budget 2011, they then renamed that registration fee to a student contribution. The higher education grant itself has been cut by 8.8% since the recession has hit, and even some people who have been in receipt of the grant have had 60% of that taken, and that's a very worrying number. On February 21st of, I think it was last year, or was it? No, it was last year. Both Eamon Gilmore and Rory Quinn signed promises that said that the grant and fees would not be an issue to come up, that they would not look at raising fees or cutting the grant. With that, Fine Gael also promised that the student registration fee would not be a target for increase. That kind of thing is personally for me a very disgusting thought, that on the promise of these things these people got elected and they are now going back on the very promises that they made. Students are a huge group, a huge voting group, and they lied to them. They openly lied to them. Granted, I understand the economic position that you will have to change, but with knowledge of the poor economic condition, these people would have not said what they said. I myself am an elected official. I have my manifesto that I planned and know that I can achieve. Hence why I am doing a status report at the moment that will allow for people to know exactly what I've done, exactly what can't be done, but what we're trying to do. I cannot go back on any of the election promises I made, because they are election promises, and I will try to finish them as much as I can. Similarly, and I know it's very, very different from government, these people should too, but they got to where they are on the promises they made. They should hold true to them. It is with that then the Students' Union here will be running a Tell Your TD campaign, whereby we will be targeting TDs, showing our disgust at any plans or any ideas to cut the grant or to increase the registration fee. Links to this are below. One of the biggest things I want from this video is debate and discussion from you guys. So feel free to comment, or if at any stage you'd like to get in touch, you can email sucso@ul.ie. You can always call into the office at any time as well. It's just, if you'd like to, comment underneath this one, and we'll see if we can spark a little bit of debate and see where we go from here. The budget is coming up fairly soon, and I think that will be watched by a lot of students. It's definitely gonna take a good bit from us, so we need to be ready for something like this. So over the next couple of weeks, focus on your exams, and the very best of luck to you. Hopefully you'll have a very nice Christmas as well, and if I don't see you before then, have a great New Year as well.